We need energy not only for activities done by us in day-to-day life, but also for biological processes occurs within our body. For that, we eat various food. Energy in organic compounds of those food should be transferred into form of energy, could be used for biological activities. Respiration is the process that transfers energy in food into form of energy that could be used for biological activities. All of you are welcome to the lesson of Process of Respiration under the unit Biological Processes of Human. Nick will join with us in this lesson.
How are you, friends? As usual, I will join with you for this lesson. Before starting the lesson, let's see what are the things we have to study.
In this lesson, we are going to study about respiration process of human. Under this topic, we will discuss about gas exchange between external environment and lung, gas exchanges in alveoli, cellular respiration, respiratory system and functions of it. In this part of the lesson, we have to discuss about inspiration, expiration, method of exhaling oxygen, carbon dioxide and water vapor between blood and external environment and respiratory surfaces. As well as we will study about production of energy for biological activities and storing of energy as adenosine triphosphate during cellular respiration. Finally, you have to study about disease and disorders related to the respiratory system as common cold, pneumonia, asthma, bronchitis, silicosis, asbestosis and diseases due to smoking. Respiration can be mentioned as one of important biological processes for the continuation of life. It is a complex process which can be divided into 3 stages. First stage of this process is gas exchange between external environment and lung. Next stage is gas exchange between blood and external gas in alveoli. As the final stage, simple food like glucose break down to produce energy need for the body functions. Now, we are going to discuss more details about each of these stages. Most of evolutionary developed animals, including humans, do the external respiration. In this case, oxygenated gas goes into the lungs while deoxygenated gas in lungs released to the outer environment. This process occurs in 2 steps as inhaling and exhaling. Most of evolutionary developed animals, including humans, do the external respiration. In this case, oxygenated gas goes into the lungs while deoxygenated gas in lungs released to the outer environment. This process occurs in 2 steps as inhaling and exhaling. Entering air into the lungs is considered as the inspiration. For that, pressure inside the lung should be less than to the external environment. On the other hand, during expiration, gas within the lungs moves towards the outside. For that, pressure inside the lung should be higher than the external environment. Let's use this setup to clarify this process. This setup can be prepared by using a bell jar, Y-tube, rubber knob with a hole, 2 rubber balloons and a balloon membrane. When you pulled rubber membrane downward like this, you can see rubber balloons are inflating. As well as when rubber membrane is released, gas in balloon again goes out. When rubber membrane is pulled down, volume inside the bell jar is increased. As a result of that, pressure is reduced and gas is entered to the balloons from outside and they get inflated. When membrane is released, volume inside the bell jar reduced and by that pressure increases, so that the air goes out and the volume of balloons reduced. Process inside the lungs is also very similar to this. Let's use this setup to clarify this process. This setup can be prepared by using a bell jar, Y-tube, rubber knob with a hole, 2 rubber balloons and a balloon membrane. When you pulled rubber membrane downward like this, you can see rubber balloons are inflating. As well as when rubber membrane is released, gas in balloon again goes out. When rubber membrane is pulled down, volume inside the bell jar is increased. As a result of that, pressure is reduced and gas is entered to the balloons from outside and they get inflated. When membrane is released, volume inside the bell jar reduced and by that pressure increases, so that the air goes out and the volume of balloons reduced. Process inside the lungs is also very similar to this. We've learned that lungs are located in the thoracic cavity, which is lined up by the ribs. Intercostal muscles are located between 2 ribs. When intercostal muscles are contract, ribs move upward and sternum move forward. At the same time, muscles of diaphragm contract and reduce its curvature. In result, volume of the thoracic cavity is increased. At that time, volume of the lung is increased and by that, pressure inside the lungs are reduced. Thus, air in the external environment with a high pressure enters into lungs with a low pressure. In this manner, air from external environment enters into the respiratory system through nasal cavity during inspiration. Internal surface of the nasal cavity is consisted of blood capillaries, mucus and cilia in later part. When air is passing through the nasal cavity, it warms up to body temperature because of blood capillaries. As well as that, the air becomes moisturized due to mucus. Various wastes in inhaled air stick onto the mucus and prevent entry of them to lungs. By rhythmic movements of cilia present in later part of the nasal cavity, send them out. Those waste materials removed from the body with saliva when coughing and sneezing. When intercostal muscles relax, ribs move downward and sternum move backward. At the same time, muscles of diaphragm also relax and curvature of it increase, resulting reduction of volume of thoracic cavity. As a result of that, volume of thoracic cavity reduced and pressure goes up. Then, pressure inside the lung becomes higher than the external environment. Thereby, gas inside lungs move out. When intercostal muscles relax, ribs move downward and sternum move backward. At the same time, muscles of diaphragm also relax and curvature of it increase, resulting reduction of volume of thoracic cavity. As a result of that, volume of thoracic cavity reduced and pressure goes up. Then, pressure inside the lung becomes higher than the external environment. Thereby, gas inside lungs move out. Air enters into the nasal cavity through the opening of nose, past trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and finally enters into alveoli. Gas exchange between blood and external environment happens in the alveoli. Wall of alveoli is with only one cell layer, so that oxygen, carbon dioxide and water vapor diffuses through the wall of alveoli. Air enters into the alveoli from outside is with a high oxygen concentration than that of blood. Therefore, oxygen diffuses through walls of the alveoli from alveoli to blood capillaries. Carbon dioxide and water vapor concentration in alveoli is less than the blood. Thus, carbon dioxide and water vapor diffuses from blood capillary to alveoli. Carbon dioxide and water vapor which diffuse to alveoli sent out from the body with exhale gas. There are some adaptations of alveoli to human to increase the efficiency of gas exchange. Presence of large amounts of alveolar sacs produced by collecting alveoli, thin and moisturized alveoli walls, and presence of blood capillary network around alveoli. A place which exchange gases between external environment and blood is called as a respiratory surface. There are several adaptations for efficient gas exchange that can be found in a respiratory surface. They are containing moisture and permeable surface, thin surface for diffusion of gases, large surface area to exchange large volume of gas according to the needs of animals and with good blood supply. Body skin, gills, trachea, and alveoli can be mentioned as examples for respiratory surfaces. Oxygen diffuses to blood, then transfers to cells. This oxygen reacts with simple food as glucose, which is absorbed into blood during digestion and produce energy that is needed for biological activities. According to that, the process of oxidation of simple foods to produce energy for biological activities within living cells is known as respiration. There are two methods of cellular respiration, as aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Respiration takes place inside cells in the presence of oxygen is called as aerobic respiration. Balance the equation for aerobic respiration can be written like this. One glucose molecule reacts with 6 oxygen molecules and produces 6 carbon dioxide molecules, 6 water molecules, and energy. Accordingly, part of carbon dioxide and water vapor produced during respiration sent out of the body with expiration, as well as part of energy transfers into heat while remaining part transfers into chemical energy. This heat helps us to maintain our body temperature in optimum level. As well as respiration takes place in cells without oxygen is known as anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration carried out in two ways in animal cells and plant cells. As a result of anaerobic respiration in plant cells, one glucose molecule breaks down into 2 carbon dioxide molecules, 2 ethanol molecule, and energy. Here, plant cells produce ethyl alcohol. As a result of that, anaerobic respiration occurs in plant cells is known as alcohol fermentation. Yeast cells growing in sugar solution can be taken as an example for anaerobic respiration. Animal cells, including human cells, break down 1 glucose molecule to produce 2 lactic acid molecules and energy during anaerobic respiration. This respiration occurs in animal cells is known as lactic acid fermentation because it produces lactic acid. Muscle pain and cramp during instant activities like 100 meters running is due to lactic acid collection in muscles. Energy produced during aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration transfers into heat and chemical energy. Energy produced during aerobic respiration is higher than the energy produced during anaerobic respiration. This is because of the incomplete breakdown of glucose in anaerobic respiration and complete breakdown of glucose in aerobic respiration. Earlier, we studied that part of energy produced during respiration transfers into chemical energy. This chemical energy deposited in high energy compound named as adenosine triphosphate or ATP. The energy needed for biological processes is produced during breakdown of high energy bonds in ATP, movements of muscles, active translocation, production of new cells, other chemical activities, production of complex compound from simple compounds, production of light, and production of electricity are some of examples to such biological processes. Storing of energy produced during respiration, releasing of energy when necessary, and act as an energy carrier are the functions of ATP. There is a high possibility to infect the respiratory tract by diseases because it contacts with the external environment frequently. In this part of the lesson, we are going to study about some infected and non-infected diseases related to the respiratory system. Tuberculosis is caused by bacteria species named as Mycobacterium tuberculosis. This bacteria species enters into lungs through external layer and multiply. That causes to increase the population of bacteria. Due to the action of these bacteria, tissues of the lung start to deteriorate and then remove parts of lung tissues with phlegm. This condition leads to make holes on lungs. As a result of that, blood capillaries also could be damaged and blood will remove with phlegm. Symptoms of tuberculosis are tiredness, loss of appetite, fever, release blood during cough, and weight loss. This disease can be prevented by giving vaccines at the correct time, and the full recovery of the disease can be obtained by giving proper treatments at the correct time. Smoking is the reason for many non-infected diseases related to respiratory system. Smoking could be the reason for mortal diseases like lung cancers and bronchitis, as well as there is a tendency to cause many other diseases and side effects. Carbon monoxide percentage in cigarette smoking is acting as a competitor to oxygen when binding to blood cells. It is readily binds with hemoglobin and reduces the chances of binding of oxygen with hemoglobin. As a result of this, less oxygen concentration for biological activities can even cause the death. Nicotine in tobacco smoke increases the heartbeat temporarily. Thus, the blood pressure also increases temporarily. If these conditions exist for a long time, heart attacks and many other complications can be occurred. Due to explosion of cilia to cigarette smoke frequently, they could be destroyed. In result, mucus and dust collected in respiratory tract. That condition will result complexions as swelling of trachea and diseases like bronchitis, finally cause difficulties of respiration. As a result of frequent exposure to cigarette smoke, cells in respiratory tract will multiply unusually and cancers could be developed in the respiratory tract. A person who is not smoking but be close to a person who is smoking also can inhale smoke. This passive smoking also can cause disease conditions. Other than that, common cold, Pneumonia, asthma, bronchitis, silicosis, and asbestosis are some common diseases associated with the respiratory system.
There are some other diseases which are associated with respiratory system. Those are common cold, pneumonia, asthma, bronchitis, and silicosis and asbestosis. Let's see each diseases briefly.
In this lesson, we learned so many things about the respiratory system. Nick, can you recall the things we learned shortly?
Yes, I can. First of all, we discussed about respiration process of human. In that part, we learnt about the necessity of respiration process. Under that, we learnt respiration occurs under 3 stages. As the first stage, we learnt about external respiration, and under that, we learnt about inspiration process and expiration process. As the second stage, we learnt about gas exchange in alveoli, method of exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide, and respiratory surfaces. As the last stage of the process of respiration, we learnt about cellular respiration. Under that, we discussed about aerobic respiration, anaerobic respiration, and adenosine triphosphate. As the latter part of the lesson, we learnt about diseases and disorders related to the respiratory system as tuberculosis, common cold, pneumonia, asthma, bronchitis, silicosis, asbestosis, as well as diseases associated with smoking.
We are going to say goodbye. We will meet you with another interesting lesson. Good day.
Good day, friends!